your story of the dock worker who taught himself how to make movies?
2017 marks 10 years since the death of Ousmane Sembene, a self-taught Senegalese filmmaker who's considered by many as the father of African cinema. A documentary film about his life and work was screened in close to 40 countries in Africa in an effort to remind and in many cases introduce him to new audiences.
I think it's Sembene's message actually that made him the father of African cinema. He's not the first sub-Saharan African to pick up a camera. It was Pauline Somano Vieira who did that in 1957, but Sembene started shooting in 1962 to make Borom Saray, and after Borom Saray, he would make a film every 3 to 4 years, and all of his films have one theme: to promote change in Africa.
Though Sembene spent 50 years writing books and making films about Africans, he remains largely unknown on the continent he dedicated most of his life to.
I was distressed that as a country, Kenyans don't seem to be interested in Sembene Ousmane. Yet we know everything about Game of Thrones and Blacklist and stuff like that. So it was first of all very discouraging and frustrating for me. Also, I had not known much about Sembene Ousmane as a filmmaker. I happened to have studied his book, God's Beasts of Wood, in high school for my literature. And it was an amazing book, but I did not know any of his works in his story as a filmmaker. So this is an opportunity for me to get to know more about it as well.
Receiving one of the highest filmmaking honors in Africa, Senegalese-French director Alain Gomis took the much-coveted Golden Starling of Yenenga. He says it's about time films talk less about culture and more about business.
Today, cinema is in danger. We talk less and less about culture and more about business. We have seen the arrival of big players, which helps us, but it's also dangerous. We need to fight to remain independent.
Nollywood, the world's second largest movie industry by volume, stepped back into the silent era. A hotel called Memory, the first of its kind in Nigeria's massive movie industry, relied on facial expressions, gestures and movement to tell the story of a woman who separated from her husband and decided to go on a journey of self-rediscovery.
I think the most challenging thing was the fact that the people weren't talking. I think everybody's so accustomed to talking that you, in directing even the actors and even for myself, to find the right tone. How do you get it to a place where it just feels right? And so that process was very challenging.
With the help of your grace, I'll confess all my sins.
There was nothing I could do. I couldn't save you.
We have to keep hope alive.
Further east, a Kenyan film called Kati Kati, which means the middle in Swahili, grabbed much attention. It tells the story of a young woman called Kaleche who dies and moves on to the next life, where others who've gone before her are trapped in a posthumous commune. Kenya's film industry has seen a revival in recent years, but industry players believe that government support would be a much-needed boost.
Yes, I feel the growth has been slow. And, you know, this is something I'm not ashamed of saying. Notice that there was no Kenyan film agency or there was no government agency that was involved in the making of Kati Kati, a Kenyan film. We saw German, parastatals involved. We saw Kenyan individuals and Kenyan companies involved. But where was the Kenya Film Commission? Where was the Kenya Film Classification Board? Where was the government of Kenya? Where was the Ministry of Culture?
More than 1,000 productions by African filmmakers were showcased at the event in the Burkinabe capital, Ouagadougou. Leslie Murungu, CGTN.